There are roughly 7,000 languages spoken on Earth right now. And linguists estimate that by the end of this century, more than half of them will be completely gone forever. Not because people stopped talking, but because the cultures that gave those languages life stopped being passed down. That single fact tells you something profound about what language really is, and most people never stop to think about it. In the next 10 minutes, you are going to discover why language and culture are not just connected but are fundamentally inseparable from each other. We will look at how the words a culture uses shape the way its people think, how losing a language means losing an entire way of seeing the world, and the one insight that completely changes how you should approach learning any new language. That insight has been sitting in plain sight for decades, but almost nobody in the language learning world talks about it the way they should. Language did not appear out of nowhere. It evolved alongside human communities over tens of thousands of years as a direct response to the needs, values, and experiences of those communities. Early hunter-gatherer groups developed vocabulary around the things that mattered most to their survival: animal behavior, seasonal patterns, plant properties, social hierarchies. Each group, living in a different environment and facing different challenges, developed different linguistic tools to navigate their world. This is not a coincidence. It is the blueprint for understanding why languages differ so dramatically from one another even today. Consider the Sami people of northern Scandinavia. Their traditional languages contain hundreds of distinct words for snow, ice, and reindeer. Not because they were poetic about winter, but because their survival literally depended on distinguishing between different types of frozen ground, different states of ice on a lake, different conditions of snowfall that would affect a reindeer herd's movement. Their language is a direct archive of their culture's priorities and knowledge. You cannot separate the vocabulary from the lifestyle that created it. Now contrast that with Arabic. Classical Arabic has over 1,000 words for the camel and concepts related to it. There are specific terms for a camel's gait at different speeds, for camels of different ages, for the relationship between a camel and its rider. This is not linguistic excess. This is a civilization encoding its most critical resource into the fabric of its communication system. The language is the culture, crystallized into sound and grammar. But here is what nobody talks about. The relationship does not only run in one direction. Culture shapes language, yes. But language also shapes culture right back. This is the idea at the heart of the Sapir-Whorf hypothesis, developed in the early 20th century by linguists Edward Sapir and Benjamin Lee Whorf. Their central claim was that the language you speak influences how you perceive and think about reality. And while the strong version of this theory, that language completely determines thought, has been challenged, the weaker version has been supported by decades of cognitive science research. One of the most compelling examples comes from color perception. Russian has two separate basic words for light blue and dark blue, goluboy and siny, whereas English treats them both as simply blue. In controlled experiments, native Russian speakers were faster at distinguishing between shades that crossed this linguistic boundary than English speakers were. The language was literally tuning their perception. It was sharpening a cognitive tool that English had left blunt. The Piraha language, spoken by a small indigenous group in the Amazon, has no words for specific numbers beyond 1, 2, and many. Research by linguist Daniel Everett found that Piraha speakers struggled significantly with tasks involving precise quantities that speakers of number-rich languages handled easily. Their language reflected a culture that simply did not need numerical precision, and that cultural reality had shaped the cognitive toolkit available to its speakers. This brings us to something that every serious language learner needs to understand. When you study a new language, you are not just memorizing vocabulary and grammar rules. You are being invited into a completely different cognitive architecture. And if you resist that invitation, you will never truly master the language. You will always be translating in your head rather than thinking in the new tongue. Take the Japanese concept of ma. This word refers to the meaningful pause or empty space between things, in music, in conversation, in physical space. There is no direct English equivalent. When you learn Japanese and genuinely internalize what ma means, you do not just learn a new word. You start noticing something in the world that you never consciously registered before. Japanese culture prizes restraint, indirect communication, and the significance of what is left unsaid. Ma is not just a word. It is a cultural value compressed into a single syllable. German has the word Schadenfreude, the pleasure derived from another person's misfortune. English speakers borrowed this word because English had no equivalent. The fact that German had a specific term for this experience does not mean only German speakers feel it. But it does mean German culture found it significant enough to name clearly, while English culture historically preferred to leave it unnamed and therefore somewhat unacknowledged. Portuguese carries the concept of saudade, a deep, melancholic longing for something or someone you love that is lost or distant. This word is considered central to the Portuguese and Brazilian cultural identity. It appears in literature, music, and daily conversation. Scholars have argued that saudade shapes how Portuguese-speaking cultures relate to loss, nostalgia, and beauty in a way that distinguishes them from cultures without a word for this precise feeling. The language is carrying a cultural philosophy inside a single noun. Here is a rhetorical question worth sitting with. If you grew up speaking a language that had no past tense, a language that described all events as equally present in consciousness, would you relate to memory and history differently? Languages in parts of Papua New Guinea have evidential markers that require the speaker to grammatically indicate how they know what they are saying. Whether they witnessed something directly, heard it from someone else, or inferred it from evidence. Speakers of these languages are constantly, obligatorily distinguishing between types of knowledge. Their grammar is training them in epistemology every single day. The implications for language learning are enormous. Research consistently shows that learners who engage deeply with the culture attached to a language outperform those who focus purely on grammatical structure. A 2016 study from the University of York found that cultural immersion, even simulated through films, music, and literature, significantly accelerated fluency compared to classroom instruction alone. This is not surprising once you understand the relationship. Culture is not the decoration around language. It is the soil it grows in. This is also why language death is such a profound loss. When the last speaker of a language dies, humanity loses more than words. It loses a unique perspective on human experience, a different way of categorizing reality, a body of ecological knowledge often encoded in place names and nature vocabulary that exists nowhere else. The Ayak language of Alaska went extinct in 2008 when its last fluent speaker, Marie Smith Jones, passed away. With her went a linguistic system built over millennia around the coastal environment of southern Alaska, carrying knowledge about that ecosystem that no other language captured in the same way. Every language on Earth is a different answer to the question of what it means to be human. And when we lose one, we narrow that answer permanently. For a language learners, this understanding should fundamentally shift the goal. You are not trying to acquire a communication tool. You are trying to enter a living system of meaning that has been built by millions of people over centuries, shaped by their geography, their values, their history, and their art. The most powerful thing you can do as a language learner is to stop asking what does this word mean in my language and start asking what does this word reveal about the people who made it. That shift in question will transform your relationship with every language you study. Before you go, if you learned something valuable today, hit that like button right now. Subscribe to Lang Bridge for a brand new video every single day. We will see you in the next one.